Well, we're here at the Norton Disney complex in Lincolnshire, very central part of the country, very easy for everyone to get to. And this is a very special and exciting trip for me because I get to fish it, luckily enough, before it opens. Now, they've stocked a lot of the lakes here. I think there's 5 or 6 at the moment with a massive head of fish. And Pettitt, which is the one I'm going to be fishing, is actually the lower stocked of the lot. There's probably 200 odd fish in there, up to 38, 39 pounds at the moment, and that fish might even do 40 pounds. This is actually opening this complex very soon, and only a few of the bailiffs really have been fishing this, so it's almost a virgin water, exactly what you need, and I'm very, very excited to get going. What I'm going to do is have a little quick look around, see if I can find some fish, and just fish some single hook baits to them for a little while, just to gauge what's going on in this lake. But here we are here, look. Exciting times.
Norton Disney has quickly become the perfect day ticket complex. The Embryo team have tirelessly worked non-stop for 6 months with over 4,000 metres of fence around the perimeter, protecting the huge stock of beautiful carp. Stocked with over £750,000 worth of fish from 10 to 35 pounds that are fed on a regular basis to maximise growth rates. You'll find about half the number of swims on these lakes than you would do on a normal day ticket venue, ensuring anglers each have a decent amount of water to fish. You can quickly see that no expense has been spared. The swims are perfectly set out for some great fishing. By spring 2020, there'll be 5 lakes open, stacked full of absolute belters. As usual, I decided to have a good look around the venue to try and find some fish. Eventually, I settled on a swim and I couldn't wait to get the kit out of the van and get going.
So I've picked my position, I'm just off of centre, skewed to the side that I've seen the most amount of fish this morning. I've probably seen about 10 fish, and most of which are between 2 little tiny dot islands just out in front of me. The first one's probably 35 yards in front, and the other one's probably 100 yards and slightly further to the right. So I've got a little bit of water in between here and there to play with, and this one's going to go about 90 yards towards that furthest island, because that is where I've seen the most amount of fish. Let's give this a go. That is perfect. Feels pretty good here. The wind has actually been going in the opposite direction, so I was a bit surprised to see him on the back of the wind, but it's just swinging now. It's starting to look really good in this area. Because there's nothing to go on, it's quite hard to know what to do. So I'm just going with the tactics that I use everywhere, 3 different colour baits, just to try, see if one's working particularly better than the other. I'll spray some boilies out there. I think I've got 2 different types for me today. I've got sail as normal, and I've got some link as well. So if I find a spot that's producing bites, I'll trickle a little bit of bait out and see if we can build an area. But for now, I'm just going to put singles out and just see if we can nick a bite while the fish are definitely here. Well, the rods have been out for probably 3 hours now, just on single hook baits, and nothing's happened, even though There's quite a lot of fish down this end, really. Most of them are on the surface, and because I haven't had a flick around with a marker rod at all, I'm not really sure what depth that the hook baits are in. So what I decided to do is I've got my marker rod in my hand, I'm gonna have a little bit of a flick about, see if I can find something about between 6 and 10 foot would be ideal, quite flat, and put a little bit of bait out because it's the summer, they're gonna be eating, and fishing singles all night really isn't the one. It's probably the right thing to do if you wanna get a quick one, but I'm gonna set my stool out, put a nice bit of, probably pellet and boilie, something like that. Felt about the right depth there. Weed. Twelve. 13 and a half. Now that is 13 and a half foot there, which isn't ideal. It's lovely and clear there. What I can imagine has happened is that it's landed in weed, which I can feel pulling back through, which is in shallower water. As soon as it's got to slightly deeper, that's where it's clear, but I want to be in slightly shallower water than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reel in, cast 5 yards to the left, same distance out, have another pull back through the swim just to map out what's out there, because it is up and down out there massively. It's a little bit like an egg box, and I'm sure if we try hard enough, we'll find somewhere nice and clear and shallow, and that is where I'll be putting the bait.
I had a few casts to the left of the marker but could only find spots of 13 feet, and really I wanted to be fishing in much shallower water. To the right though, I found the perfect spot, 20 yards to the right of where we saw the bulk of the fish. It was 6 to 7 feet deep and perfectly clear gravel. I decided to put all 3 rods on that spot, 3 feet apart, and then put approximately 1 kilo of bait over the top. The mix consisted of whole and chopped boilies doused in smart liquid. The conditions looked perfect for a while with a big storm brewing, but then the weather cleared for the evening. It still looked extremely good though, and confidence was very high. I was just hoping the fish would find the bait overnight.
Left hand rod. Oh, that is like a foot to the right of that one. Oh, yes. Good morning, and it is as well. To be honest, it was a very quiet night. Had no liners or anything. I woke up this morning thinking this is not going to happen here, and totally out of the blue, the middle rod's gone, which is often a sign that the fish are really on the bait because you haven't had the bites on the outside rod. So I'm guessing that a lot of that bait's gone, and they're getting through it out there, probably as we speak as well, because the fish seem to be hugely shoaled up over here as well, so it's a really good sign. What a beautiful morning as well, mist rolling off the water. It's been really thick this morning, the mist. It's often not a very good sign because it means that the air temperature is much colder than the water. But we'll see. It's taken me by surprise, this, I'll tell you. Tell you what, he's not very big, that one, but another powerful little thing, beautiful little, fully scaled, I think. Like I said before, not many people have fished this lake, so there's a few in here that haven't been caught, but some of the stock are from a lake that has been fished, so they're not totally virgin fish, but that one looks like one of the stocked fish. Result. Well, look at that absolute beauty. It's not one of the biggest ones in this lake by any measure, but what a beautiful fish. 17 pounds, 10 ounces. My first fish out of here, which is always the hardest one to get. And this one was on the middle rod on a spot that's probably only 6 or 7 foot wide, over quite a lot of bait, probably 1.5 kilos, which means they're definitely down there eating the food. And this one was on a white hook bait. Now I had a yellow one right next to it, and that hasn't gone. And because they're out there definitely eating all of the bait, what I'm gonna do is reel the right hand rod in as well and redo that one, but put a food bait colour on that one. Maybe a cell or a link coloured hook bait on that one, because they're certainly out there eating the grub. For me now, though, this will do lovely. I'm gonna get it back out and get that right hand rod changed. Beautiful. So it's been a couple of hours now since I had the bite, and what I decided to do was just leave that rod out of the water just in case there were fish out there feeding on the spot and I could have got another bite, but that hasn't happened, so I decided to put a few more spods out, keep the spot going, allow for that wind, perfect, and see if we can get them back in. There's also a few spots down to my right there I'm just going to go and have a look at, dribble some pellet and some boilies onto, because it's always nice having a little side hustle, because sometimes if things go a little bit dry, a little bit quiet, you've always got something else to pay attention to, and often they can grab you a fish or two. So we'll get some bait out here and then we'll be off down there. So we're now about 50 yards down to the right of where I'm actually fishing, and these little sort of sunken trees or bushes or whatever they are in the water, and just this side of them there are some little clear areas that you can see that they've polished off, and a couple of the bailiffs and the guys that have been working here have said they've been loving this margin recently, so it'd be silly to ignore it. I've got some boilies and pellets here, just the same as I'm putting out on the spot out in the lake. I'm not going to put too much out, but I'm going to try and put them close enough that I can actually see them. So if I come back in an hour's time and they're gone, I'll know they're gone. If you put them too deep, you don't know that they're there. If the fish have come in the net, you're none the wiser really. So try and put them somewhere you can see them, and then just come back and check every 20 minutes, half hour. One thing you might notice when you come back is that the water's slightly murkier, and that's where the fish have come in. They fed on the bottom and it's stirred up a little bit, and that's a really good sign that they've been in. That's probably enough, that. A few little handfuls. I'll have a little look further down as well if there's any more spots that are looking likely, I'll put some bait on there as well. Nice little spot as well next to that tree. It's quite obvious as well to come back to that. Doesn't look like there's any fish down here at the minute, but this wind's pushing down lovely. Yesterday it was going in the opposite direction. It didn't look so good down here, but in the afternoon there was lots of fish here, so not necessarily in this edge, but certainly down this end. But like I said before, it's worth a go. If nothing comes of it, nothing comes of it. But at least we've got something else going on. Right, well, that looks a little bit good there. I've decided to change over from the bright ones to a match the hatch on just one rod, because I feel like there might be a lot of fish out there feeding and I'm not getting as many bites as I should be. Because I had that bite on the middle rod on a white one and the outside rods haven't gone at all, which means that they're in the swim feeding and they've bypassed them rods, which isn't a good thing. It's always a good thing though to keep your options open with hook baits, because if you've got something on the end that they don't want, you ain't getting a bite. So you've got to keep it open. Let's try and get this out quick. That's looking good, that. Yes, lovely. Got to keep your options open, because if you've got 3 of the same thing on and it's not what they want, you're really, really stopping yourself from getting bites there. And in the range at Mainline, you've got 3 sections really, I'd like to say, that you've got the pastel colours, which are bright but not really in your face bright. You've got the high vis ones that are perfect for spring fishing, really bright, really high attract. And then you've got the match the hatch, which is exactly what I've just put out here. And the match the hatch really I tend to use throughout the summer when they're going through a lot of grub and they're looking for the bait that you're putting out. And I feel like we're sort of on the edge now of that exact thing. We're at the end of May. The fish are starting to put weight back on after spawning. Some of them here have spawned, some of them haven't. So some of them will be eating a lot of food and some of them would already seen in most waters a lot of high vis hook bait. So you don't particularly want one of them on the end all of the time. So again, keep your options open and you won't go so far wrong. Put this down here. I'm going to put that white one just to the right of that and the yellow one to the left. But I've got a sneaky feeling and that's the one that's going to do the bites. The conditions have changed absolutely perfectly. The wind's hacking down this end. There's fish showing on the spot, behind the spot, this side of the spot. My right hand rod's just ripped off. The issue is that I've got a big bar, probably 30 yards out, that the line's caught on at the minute. Trying to tease it off, but it's not looking good if I'm honest. There's probably a little bit of weed just the other side of the bar that Right, we're back in. It's just flicked quickly off of that weed. It's very windy. I'm sure you can hear it through the mic there, and I'm sorry about that, but there's nothing we can do about the wind. Right. We're now the left-hand side of this little island. you know what? I'm surprised that stayed on that fish, because fishing with barbless hooks here, sometimes when they get caught in the weed, it struggled to keep a tight line the other side of the weed, so I'm pleased that stayed on. Got a barbless size 4 crank on a spinner rig, which is pretty much my setup absolutely everywhere at the minute, so if we are lucky enough to get this one in, I'll show you through it all. It's grating again! Don't do it! Don't do it to me! Done it again, back to the top. Nightmare. Hear the line singing in the wind there. It's about as tight as I want to go, really. I mean, normally I'd slacken off a little bit and let the fish swim out of the weed or the back of the bar, but like I just said, I'm a bit worried about the barbless hook thing, so. Starting to think that maybe we were quite fortunate to get that first one in without any ag at all, because this has done me in 2 different spots now. Okay, back in touch again with it. Come over the bar. Come over the bar. It's over the bar. I'll tell you what, we've had a massive touch for this. Twice I thought we weren't going to get this in, and now it's looking like we might do. If it comes off now, I'm going to cry. And by the way, this is the white hook bait again. It was actually on the right-hand side of the spot though, which is where most of the bait went because of this crosswind. I ended up putting a lot to the right-hand side of the spot. So it might have been that, it might be that the white hook baits are working well. Right, let's go and get a net. Goes to show that when you do get them weeded up, oh no, don't go around that. Does go to show when you get them weeded up not to panic too much, don't pull for a break. Just pull tight to the fish, slacken off a little bit, pull tight. Eventually they end up kicking out, or your just constant pressure ends up just pulling them out of the weed, so. It's one of them situations as well that if you hadn't have lost the lead, you wouldn't have got the fish in. People always moan and say that we're trying to get people to lose leads because we're going to earn more money, but it really isn't. It's like, Do you want to land that fish or do you not? Especially in a situation like this. Right, here he is. Lovely. Look at these conditions, man. Right, I don't want to be too long with this. I want to get the rod back out because this is a golden opportunity. We're at the end of May, fishing the net. Conditions are perfect. They're obviously eating the bait. We know what hook bait they like now. White, white, white. Oh, what a nightmare that was. He got caught up twice on the back of that bar in some weed. I really didn't think we was going to get him in sometimes. Cameraman nearly tripped over 3 times on the way up, but here we are with a lovely fish. He's about 17 pound as well. It's mad to think that these little ones, they're the smallest ones in here at 17 pounds. And I think by the time that people actually get to come over and fish, these are all going to be over 20 pounds. So it's a very bright future for Embryo over here and a very bright future for this one, because if he gives other people as much aggro as he did me, people aren't probably going to catch him that much. Cheers, mate. Right, well, we are down in the opposite corner of the lake to where I'm actually fishing, and that's because there are a lot of fish down here, and I've been watching them from my swim, and although there's some fish where I am, it looks like there's a lot of fish in this corner and there's an opportunity to be had. So I've got 2 rods, a little bit of bait. I thought I'd just fish down here for an hour, gives my swim a rest as well, which is good so the fish can move back in there, and we might be able to nick one very quickly here. So let's give it a go, eh? Ooh, that feels good. Deep out there, but rock solid bottom. Come on, the fishes. Well, you know what they say about a minute in the right, place and all that. I've literally been here like, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes or something. And the left-hand rod's gone. It was 15 yards out maximum, I reckon, probably just at the bottom of the shelf. I'm not really sure how steep the shelf is here, but it felt like it was probably in 14 or 15 foot of water. Sprayed 4 little patchfuls of pellet around it, a little white pop up. And a PVA bag. Job the gunner. What is he doing, this fish? Swimming towards me. I highly recommend doing this actually. Getting out of your swim refreshes your head a little bit as well. Have a little go. You often get a bit of a chance elsewhere as well. No lines in the water over here, and just nice to get one that quick. Rods on the floor. There's nothing more exciting than a stone falling on the floor as well. Here's our heart going. It doesn't feel huge, this fish, but it's a bit of fun. Look at that, these fish in here are unbelievable. Oh, good, isn't it? Yeah. Well, that was worth the short trip, wasn't it? You never know, there might even be a chance for another one down here, but that was 4 minutes in the right place, that was. fishing a net. Lovely jubbly. They literally don't come much better looking than that. And it's fair to say, I think, that they like them white milky toffee pop-ups. Couldn't have got a much quicker bite than that. It must have been one of the first fish that went past it, took it, nailed in the bottom lip, and well worth the move. Don't hesitate if you see them show. Get on them as soon as you can and see if you can get a quick bite like this. Beautiful. Thanks, you gorgeous little thing.
I ended up spending about 50 minutes in that swim, which was probably 30 minutes too long. I decided to stay over there though for a little bit longer, as you never know if the fish may stay around for another bite. I've now come back to the swim, wrapped my rods ready for the evening. I'm fishing at around 20 wraps out in between the islands, and the spot still looks very good. I've decided to put out more boilie and less pellet this time in hope of catching a bigger fish before we leave.
Yeah, but
the weather changed this afternoon to the most perfect conditions. Big southwesterly winds blowing directly into my corner. It's nice and cool, the fish are on the surface, the game is on.
well, we had a little bit of a bump in the road last night. I managed to lose one in the middle of the night, screaming take on the left-hand rod. And I managed to lose it on the back of that bar. And because it was dark, I literally just couldn't see what was going on out there. And in the end, the hook pulled. But I got up at first light, I redone that rod and one of the other ones that it wiped out in the process. The conditions are amazing, really, but nothing else this morning. We're now probably mid-morning, I think. And yeah, the wind's hacking from left to right, so I'm gonna keep a very close eye on these bays down to my right, just in case the fish turn up close in like they did yesterday, and there might be an opportunity for a quick move and a quick bite. But I really would hope that we manage to get one before we go. Here it is, the infamous spinner rig or Ronnie rig, depending on what you want to call it. And it's pretty much what I've used solely for the last 3 years, and it's what I've been using here as well. And there's a few reasons for that. One, and the main reason for me really, is that it doesn't tangle. No matter where you cast this, how you cast it, it always comes back tangle free. And that's really nice for your peace of mind when you're fishing. So the other thing as well is that as long as you fish it with a helicopter rig like we've got on here, with this sliding up and down towards that bead, you can fish it on any bottom you want, whether it's weed, silt, gravel, clay. If it's gravel or clay, I slide that bead down to 2 or 3 inches from the lead, and if it's weed, depending on how high I think the weed is, I'll just slide that up accordingly. And that means that this hook link section just sits on top of anything that's out there and you're presented ready to go. Yeah, the hook link section itself, I've got about 7 inches there of 25-pound boom material. Now that's really stiff, and that's one of the main reasons it doesn't tangle. You could use something like braid or a soft coated braid, but you might get some tangles. I've just always fished it with this and used that bead to determine what bottom you're fishing on. On that hook link section, I've got a crimped loop either end, one of which has got nothing on it that I click onto the quick chain swivel onto the lead core. And on the other end, I've got it onto a little spinner swivel that I've cut the ring off of, that I then put the hook onto. And the hook is actually quite a big hook. a size 4 for the size of bait, and that size of bait is 12 mil, which looks ridiculous, but that's really what you want, especially with a pop-up, because that pop-up will sit directly over the hook so they can't see it. But when it goes into their mouth, the hooking potential is there, because pretty much most of what goes into its mouth is a big old hook, so it's absolutely perfect. So yeah, really, it's a very versatile rig. It centres around that big hook, spinning directly onto the swivel, so the hooking potential's there, and it's just so versatile because you can cast it absolutely anywhere and you don't need to keep tying hook links. What more could you want? Well, we really haven't got long left of this trip, probably an hour or so to go. And like yesterday, they've literally just turned up in mass in one of the corners, and that corner's just to our right. Not far from where we put the bait in the edge, just off of them trees in the background there. And I'm gonna move down there with 3 rods, chuck them in the edge quickly, maybe 10 yards out, see if we can't nick a bite just before we go, because it would be really nice to finish this trip on a nice little fish. So, see how we go. That is a liner already. They're literally right in the edge. That's only 10 yards out, that rod. I'm feeling very, very confident here. Well, I nearly lost the rod then. I've got no back. The cameraman's nearly just falling in. It's going, oh no, this is a nightmare. I've left the net up there. I nearly lost my net, my rod. This fish is going mental. The cameraman's nearly fallen in. Cheers, mate. I know it seems a bit treacherous here, but there's actually going to be a swim exactly where we're standing. I just haven't built it yet, so yes, it's in the net. Oh my God. Well, that didn't take long, did it? But we nearly died a few times in the process, but hey, why does it matter? Good way to finish though. So again, like, opportunity arises, get on them, it happens really quickly. You just got to make sure you're looking to find the opportunities, otherwise you'd miss them and they'd go in the blink of an eye. So, I'm a bit shaky after that. That was a bit much. Right, let's go and get the unhooking mat. John, I need that other net, mate. His other rod's gone. Lovely. Cheers. This has either got weed on it, this fish, or it's slightly bigger, I think. We've been unlucky with the size of the fish so far, because there's a lot of fish in here over 25 pound, more than 10 30s to nearly 40 pounds. So it'd be nice if we could nick one of the bigger ones before we go. This is proper last gasp, this. Don't you go now. What a brilliant bit of fishing though, it's lovely. Love doing this. The end of a southwesterly at the end of May, beginning of June. Fish are showing. cast out and catch them. This fish is definitely holding its ground a bit better. You never know. It still feels quick and juddery, but hoping we've got a better one on. This wind is so warm. It's like typical textbook. Really warm southwesterly, and now right on the end of it. A few patchfuls of cell 10 millers, a few patchfuls of pellets. Job's a good one. Whee. Lovely. It's not that much bigger, might be a bit heavier, but that is an absolute cracker again. Look at that. Half an hour ago, we didn't think we was going to get another one. Now look at that, 2 nets full. There's no better way to finish the trip than that. A gorgeous fish, biggest of the trip as well, probably around 20 pound this one. And no better way to show that when you get the hook baits right, when you get the rigs right, all you need to do is find the fish and you can get them very, very quickly. Twice that white hook bait was picked first off the spot out of 3 colours. Then when we moved over to the other swim, it went straight away, and that's when you know you've got it right. And then moved to the 3rd swim today. 2 fish within 10 or 15 minutes, and off to home we go. Thank you very much, mate. Beautiful.